welcome to another engaging episode of Conversations with Indie Authors, where we dive deep into the worlds and minds of talented independent authors. I'm your host, Brittani Starr, and today we have a fantastic guest with us, D.W. Rogers, a gifted storyteller who grew up with a passion for writing that led him to create captivating tales of adventure and magic. He'll be sharing his insights into his latest book, the Draconia Chronicles, Terra, and offering a glimpse into the life and imagination of an author who's truly dedicated to following his dreams. Conversations with Indie Authors. So welcome to the show, D.W. Rogers.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Can you tell us a bit about your book, the Draconia Chronicles, Terra? What inspired you to write this?
So I was reading to my children one night, and they told me, they said that they thought that was really cool. And then they found some stuff that I wrote when I was a kid, and they were like, "Why don't you write anymore?" I said, "Well, I just don't." And they taught me into writing them a story. And then they said, "What happens next?" And then there was another story. Well, what happens next? And it wound up turning into a full-fledged book. They pushed me wanting the rest of the story and wanting the rest of the story. And then when it got to the end, I thought, well, where do we go from there? So the first book released in July. The kids were pushing me like they were. Because the first book took so long as it did to come out and get published, the second book was just about finished. And so I'm looking at an October 13th release if everything goes as planned for the second book. So the second one's getting ready to come out too.
That's awesome. So you grew up in various towns across Oklahoma and Texas. Did these different locations influence your storytelling style?
A little bit. So it's kind of strange because most people that didn't move around a lot, I guess, probably haven't noticed it. But when you go from different place to different place, it's almost like people have different favorite authors based on where they grew up and what the stories were about. So in Oklahoma, I read Where the Red Fern Grows. In Texas, we went with The Red Badge of Courage and things like that. And I mean, so I have a much more, I guess, a wider variety of favorites than most people.
There you go. That's awesome. Can you introduce us to some of the main characters in your book?
Sure. There's Sean, Sam, and Gideon are the main characters. In the first book, we follow Sean. Sam and Gideon are off doing a different thing, and no one knows what they're doing. Sean goes along and he makes new friends. He comes up, he meets a woman named Morgana who can talk to animals. They She can talk to animals. Forest where they encounter all kinds of different crazy shenanigans. They have to deal with traps and um, monsters and a native tribe that wants to feed them to a false god. And I mean, it's all pretty tame though. It's not any wilder than your average Disney movie. There you go.
So is it more geared towards children or is it more young adult?
So what I tried to do is I tried to aim it at kids like between 8 and 14, but I wanted to make it where it'd be entertaining enough that adults could read it with their kids. I mean, I read to my kids a lot, and we run into a big barrier of the kids really like it or I really like it. It's really hard to find something that we both enjoy, and that makes it, so I wanted to kind of try and fill that gap.
Okay.
My goal is as the books progress for them to grow up. So the first one's aimed at 8 to 14-year-olds. The last one I'd like to be aimed at adults.
Your book involves dragons and wizards and witches. Are there any specific themes or messages you hope readers will take away from your story?
Well, there's a catchphrase throughout the whole book. It drove my kids crazy by the time it was over. It says there's a lot left to learn. And that's probably the biggest message I'd like for them to take out of it is, it doesn't matter how much you know or what you've learned, if there's more there to learn.
Perfect. Where can we find your book?
It is on Amazon.
Okay.
You can get it online at Barnes and Noble, but they don't carry it in the store.
Oh, okay. And what are your socials that people can find you online?
Facebook. I have others set up, but I don't maintain them very well at all.
Okay, yeah. So Facebook is the one you're mostly on. Do you have an
Right.
author page or only a personal page?
I'm sorry?
Do you have an author page or a
Yes, I
personal?
have an author page. It's
Okay,
D.W. Rogers.
perfect.
On the back of the book, there's a logo. I don't know how
Okay.
well you can see it, and a QR code.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see the QR code. Yes.
The QR code will take you to my page, and that logo is currently the picture that I have on there. I have not gotten an author photo yet.
Okay. Do you have any advice or words of wisdom for aspiring authors?
I do. Write a lot. Don't worry about if it's good, just write. You can edit a page that's bad writing, but you can't edit a page that's not written at all.
That's true. So, family and support play a significant role in many authors' life. Your family inspired you to write this book, but how did your wife or the rest of your family support you in your writing?
Well, my sister got to be my first beta reader. As I was finishing it, and it got decided that it was getting long enough, we might try and actually publish it. I started sending it to her one chapter at a time, and she kind of helped push me with the idea of, yeah, you should publish this. Once I got it published, they've all been very supportive and very proud of me, and that's been wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of self-esteem stuff into it. You spend a lot of time going, am I wasting my time doing this? Is anyone going to really care? Is this just, and they fixed that for me.
Can you share a memorable moment or experience with your writing career so far?
Uh, Probably the most exciting thing that's happened to me so far is I donated a book to the local library and they put it on the shelf.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you take your kids there to see that?
It gets a little better. It got on the shelf, and then about a week later, the librarian called me and she said, "Your book's gone. Somebody checked it out." She was
That's
very excited for me. So
aw.
someone's already taken the book out of the library.
Well, it sounds like not only your family, but the whole community is supportive of you writing your book.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. What is your writing process? You know how everyone has like different things of how they get their inspiration and what helps them sit down and write.
So it's kind of funny. I have a start goal and I have an end goal, and I kind of map it out. You know, these are the major plot points that I want to hit. But most of the time, before I hit that final plot point, it has completely changed. It's nothing like I planned.
Did you give it to an editor? Because that usually happens after the editor gets a hold of it. You're like, wait a minute.
No, that usually happens. That usually happens before I send it to my editor.
Oh, wow.
So the great thing is my editor, if both times, in this one and the new one, both times I sent it to her, and while she was editing it, she sent me a message and she said, "I never saw it coming. I didn't think that was going to happen." I'm like, that's good. That's what I want.
That's pretty perfect. As a writer, you're like, yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, you know what? We are out of time. That is another wrap for today's episode with Conversations with Indie Authors. I hope you enjoyed our insightful conversation with D.W. Rogers, where we explored his journey as a writer and got a glimpse into the enchanting world of the Draconia Chronicles, Terra. If you're eager to embark on an adventure filled with dragons, wizards, and witches, make sure you check out his book on Amazon. The links will be below in the description box. Remember, never stop pursuing your dreams, just like our inspiring guest today. I'm your host, Brittani Starr, and until next time, keep reading, keep writing, and keep dreaming. Thank you for joining us on this enlightening episode of the Zarlequan podcast. Remember to subscribe to our newsletter so you never miss a beat.